I'm a ghost. I am your host and friend, Leigh, and we are just about ready to begin. I am just going to load this up over on Facebook so we can grab some friends from over there. And hopefully, I'm also streaming in LinkedIn. That's something new, which I'm super excited about that. So, if you're tuning in for the first time, this is the Friend Leigh Show, and we do things a little differently over here. So this is a live show. We do it every week from Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central Eastern, and then 6:30 Central. And what will happen is if you're watching live, so if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitch, and you make a comment, you become a part of the show. So for instance, Kelly is here. Hey, Kelly. So she says hello. It comes up on the screen, and now she's part of the show, which is really cool. And who knows, she could be in her pajamas right now. So that's the nice thing about live shows is I'm the only one that has to be dressed appropriately. You can do whatever you would like to do, and just hang out and get to be a part of it. So I love to hear your questions, your comments, your insights. That's what makes the show so fun. And what we do is every month we have a theme that we kind of center all of the shows for that month around. And every week we do a different pillar of the happy framework. And so this week we are going to be talking about the theme, which is the 4 agreements, which is this book. And it is, if you haven't read it, like, please read it. It is so good. And we are going to be talking about how those 4 agreements can help shape and strengthen our partnerships. And if you guys are new to the show, partnerships are just simply our relationships, but each pillar is a letter of happy, and there's no R in happy, so we couldn't do relationships, so we did partnerships. So I'm really excited to be talking about that. We are going to I'm going to go over a few things. I made some notes that I kind of want to just go over real quickly with you. And this is mainly to kind of set the tone for the show. But I like to think of you guys just coming into my living room and us having a conversation. And if that happens in real life, we tend to like squirrel and butterfly all over the room with different conversations. So we're going to start here and then see how it branches out. But for right now, let's look at the 4 agreements. So the 4 agreements are be impeccable with your word. Okay. That's the first one. So with that one, when we're talking about being impeccable with our word and how it affects our relationships, this is probably one of the biggest ones. So they're all really important, but this one means being honest and kind and having integrity with the words that we're using and the way that we're showing up in our relationships. So speaking truthfully and kindly should go hand in hand. I think honesty is always the best policy, but we can speak honest and like rub people the wrong way. You have to know that sometimes people don't want to hear the honest truth. And so they can become defensive. So coming at it with kindness, so being impeccable with your word is using your word properly, that it's going to be best taken in by the person that's hearing it. Okay. So, and you want it to be honest, you want it to be truthful, but if you're going to attack somebody with the truth, your partner, your mother, your child is going to take defense to it, and they're not even going to hear what you have to say. So putting those two together, being truthful, but also kind, is really important. Also, avoiding gossip and criticism when you're talking with your friends. So some of us, like, we'll have friends that maybe we've been friends with for a very long time. And, that's kind of like, that's what you did in high school. You just gossiped about people, and now you're doing it again, right? Like now you're in your 30s, your 40s, whatever it is, and you're still gossiping. Well, here's the thing. If you're gossiping about others, yeah, you might feel like that's strengthening your bond, but subconsciously that person is getting nervous that oh my gosh, if she's talking about them, even if they're talking about somebody else, if she's talking about them, what is she saying behind my back when she's talking to other friends about me? So that's why being impeccable with the word is really important in those circumstances. And then also making sure that we're um, being in integrity when we're talking. So if you say something and you know that it was wrong, you know that like what you said just wasn't the truth, but then you're like, oh my gosh, well, it was kind of just a white lie. And I don't want them to think I was lying. So now I'm just going to just own up to it and just say, hey, you know what? I don't even know why I said that. That's actually not the truth. Here's the truth. I think I was just saying that to kind of make things easier, but here's the truth. So even if you say something that was a little white lie and then you immediately feel guilty about it, just come out and be honest about it, you know? So we'll get into all of that a little bit more, but some of the things that like just tips around that is pause before you speak. If somebody asks you a question, just take a pause, just take a moment to think about what you're about to say. Because sometimes like that's all it takes is just a moment for us to be like, let me take that whole thing in instead of jumping on like maybe the first thing that they said or the last thing that they said. And then also using I statements. We've talked about that before. I feel like blah, 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 instead of you always do blah, blah, blah. Right. So keeping it personal, keeping it, this is the way that I feel. So then you can have better conversations is going to help all around. Okay. So the next one, number 2, is don't take anything personally. So don't take anything personally. Okay. So you can, when you're speaking, you can speak in, in the personal, in the first person, but you don't want to take anything in that's personal. Like the majority of times that people are saying things, it's because it's a reflection. It's what they're going through, and they're just projecting those kinds of things onto you. So the best way for you to kind of avoid misunderstandings and disagreements is not to take things personally, detach from the emotions that you might have when they say something. So you're not taking everything defensively, and then you're able to ask better questions. So you're able to get clarity on what's actually happening. Because a lot of the time, we've talked about this too before, story checking is huge. So story checking, all that is I think it was a Brene Brown kind of tool. And it's where you hear something. So a friend of yours or a partner of yours might be saying something. They might say something. And then later on, you're like, man, yeah, you know what? They must think that they must, right? Making these assumptions, which we'll get to the next one. They must think that I'm this horrible person or that and it becomes very personal. And all that it takes is for you to story check and say, hey, when you said that, I took that personally, I took it defensively, but can we just talk about it a little bit? And a lot of the times it has nothing to do with you. They might be having a bad day and they're just literally talking about their bad day. There's not an underlying meaning to how you were a part of it. So we want to really making sure that we're not taking the things that people are telling us personally. If people cancel plans with us, they're probably just canceling plans with us because either they don't want to leave the house or something came up. But sometimes we'll take that personally, like, oh, they don't want to be around me. Oh, what did I do to offend them? A lot of the times people just don't want to get out of their house. So asking for clarity is a big one on that. And then it is also leading into number 3, which is don't make assumptions. Getting clarity is huge in that one too. So, which is also really big for being impeccable with your word. If you're being impeccable with your word, you're constantly asking for clarification because you're not going to jump to a misunderstanding or an assumption and then use your words to keep piling on to that story, right? You're going to be really impeccable and say, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to go down this road until I know it's the right road that we're going down. So you're going to ask for clarification. And then the last one is always do your best. This one was a big one that I'm hoping that we're going to get to a lot at the end, because as you guys know, every 2 weeks I see my coach, and we talked about this one a lot, and I've had a lot of breakthroughs with it because I am a recovering all or nothing person. And this one is huge. So always do your best. If it's the first time you're listening to the show and you're not sure of what that means, that does not mean going 150% out and, hustling harder and doing more. It just means showing up and putting out your best effort, whatever that is that day, that moment, and not striving for perfection, not berating yourself, but just showing up the best that you can. So trying to show up when we're talking about relationships, trying to show up with love and care and patience, that's what matters. The effort matters. Making sure that we're doing the little things well. They don't have to be the grand gestures. You don't have to be buying all the presents and, doing all the big things. It's the little things that matter. And so always doing your best with whatever you've got going on that day is really important. And doing your best is also showing up for those other three, right? And having better communication. So, okay. So I think that is that. I'm going to kind of go back over and see what we've got going on. I don't go to the comments only in this section because I do want the audio version for you guys. That you do have something to listen to in the beginning. And so now if you're listening to this in the audio version, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you are, now it's going to hop around, because now we're going to have conversation inside my living room with all of our friends, and we're going to be in the friend circle chatting. So if it becomes confusing for you, head on over to YouTube and you can watch the replay, and then you'll be able to see it come up and you'll be part of the conversation, so to speak. And then next week, show up live, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, or whatever the equivalent is for you. Okay. So let us get going and see who's here. It's my favorite part. So Britt is here. Hey, Pops. Howdy, howdy. Okay. And Sound Guy is here. Okay. So he popped right in and got going. He's like, 100% be honest about your mistakes. You can always reset or rectify when you misstep, and it's never too late. I've started using this with my kids when I mess up, and now they do it too. Ooh, that is so good. That's so good. Yeah, especially with kids. Like, I don't have children, and I actually I saw my cousin in Arizona, spent the whole day with him and watched him with his kids. And OMG, it takes a lot to parent these days, you guys. Like, if you're a parent, you get it. But if you're not a parent and you're just looking at these parents and like, oh my gosh, like, it's pretty easy. Like, if you just, take care of the kids the way that we should be, is really hard, because you've got to juggle the way you are being and the way that you want them to show up, and making sure that you're not lashing out. So all of these 4 agreements absolutely help with parenting as much as they do with our spouses, our partners, and our friends. So that misstep, Sound Guy, is amazing, because even telling your kids that you messed up or that you didn't handle something properly is really, really important. Actually, there we go. So Pop says, nice, Sound Guy. Cool beans. Okay, so that's awesome. And Rose here. Hey, Rohan. Hello, hello. She says, also an interesting design for a necklace. Oh, for me? Yes. Okay, so unless you're talking about just the microphone. But I'm going to step away. I want to show you the necklace because it's like my favorite. I've had it for absolute years, probably maybe decades. And I've just brought it back out into the mix this week, and I absolutely love it. So watch all the things that I can do with it. Anyway, yes. So I love it. I hope that's what you were talking about and not this, because this is also an interesting necklace, this microphone. Oh, there we go. Britt says, you played with it last stream. Yeah, because I'm a child and I think it's awesome. And I'm telling everybody about it, and I absolutely love it. It always looks different because I'm constantly playing with it. I feel like it's one of those like fidget spinners. I've never had one, but I feel like now I can see the attraction to it. So anyway, the more nervous I get, the more I play with it. So we'll see how I do today. Okay, so 4 agreements, you guys. So let me get into I want you guys to share like what you guys are thinking. Sound guy, that was awesome. So the all 4 of them. Where are you at with them, especially when it has to do with your relationships and your partnerships, whether it's with your kids or with your partners or with people at work or strangers? All of the things matter. Um, I think it matters, um, especially when we're with strangers. Ooh, I have a story. Okay, Britt, last stream, did I tell you guys about the parallel parking and the guy that beeped at me and yelled at me and cursed at me? Did I tell you guys? Let me know if I told you that story. If I did, I'm not going to repeat it. But if I did not, it is a good one. Okay, so what I know that I didn't share with you guys is my coaching session this morning. And I want to like kind of go through that because that was it was a lot about the all or nothing. And with the all or nothing, I have always no, I for a very long time have been all or nothing. And I thought that was just the way that I was. As an adult, I just became all or nothing. It's like go full out and then just like crash and then go full out and then crash, right? And what I didn't realize, and I came up with this, and my coach she didn't say it in these words, but the last couple weeks she's been working with me with this all or nothing. And it finally clicked. And that's what's cool about having a coach is that having a coach they're able to kind of show you how you're showing up and make you question why you're doing the things that you're doing and why you're showing up the way that you're showing up. So then you can make these conclusions and awarenesses about yourself as you're going. So what I realized, which you guys might be like, well, duh, of course, this is exactly what all or nothing is, but I didn't know until I made the connection today. And all or nothing, for me anyway, was a coping mechanism for my trauma. So it started in my 20s because of the episode, and you guys all know the episode that I'm talking about. And so that happened in university. And so it wasn't a matter of saying, I'm going to block this trauma or this experience out, and then I'm going to fill it all with all of this stuff, right? Like it wasn't a conscious decision that I made on a, Monday morning and was like, okay, that's it. This is the way that I'm going to live my life now. But your body protects you. So my body and my mind, I wasn't ready to deal with that trauma. I wasn't ready to deal with everything that meant. And so what I did is I protected myself and I dissociated from my body, from that experience, from the whole thing. And then because naturally you'll think about it, I filled my time, my mind, my heart, everything with work. And so the work ended up being my life, right? That was my passion. And I was always doing things that I loved. So it was like, no, I'm not a workaholic. I just really love what I do. And now I'm realizing that that was a trauma response. And the trauma response was, and you guys, okay, so here I'm going to do my disclaimer. Okay. So I am just your friend. I am not a healthcare professional in any way. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. So if you're here and you're listening to anything and anything's resonating, please take it to a healthcare professional. This is simply, we are in your friend's living room in a circle with other friends, and we're just having a conversation. But I'm going to be telling you from my experience, and the other people in the comments are going to be sharing their experience. And from that, we'll be able to grow and learn. So for me, what I realized is that the all or nothing was really a fight and flight response. So I was fleeing when I was doing nothing. I was becoming paralyzed. I was stopping. I was like, I just couldn't take on the world. And then I was going full out and just fighting for my safety. I was fighting for my peace. And the only way that I knew to do that was to fill it with work. And so now I'm a recovering all or nothing person because now I'm realizing I don't need to protect myself from anything. I can actually live my life in balance and work on that. And I never thought that that was possible, but now I understand it absolutely is possible, because balance is not 50-50. It's not 50% work, 50% home life. It's not, 25, 25, 25, 25%. It's, think about a bike. You're pedaling, pedaling, pedaling to stay in balance. But then sometimes you can coast. Sometimes you don't have to pedal because you are just staying in balance. But then you're going to slow down, and that's fine. And then you're going to need to start pedaling again so you can regain that balance so you don't fall over, right? So that's all that balance is. It's not you spend the same amount of time in your work versus your personal. Okay. So that was my big aha moment today in my coaching session, because I realized that. I shared that with her and she's like, yes. And you've been showing up that way with a lot of the things that we've been talking about. So instead of doing, like, this morning was a perfect example. I wanted to do a 45-minute workout. I didn't have time to do it. And then old me would have not done a workout at all and then did the 45-minute workout tonight. And instead I said, I could just go for a 20-minute and I can still get my movement. I can still get my sunlight. I can still get the fresh air and just do it for 20 minutes. That's okay. And now I'm not going to work out again. I'm happy with that. So really, really, just really cool. So let's see. There's a lot of stuff that's been coming up. So let's see here. Britt says, you have nothing to be nervous about. We're all friends here. I didn't hear a parallel parking story. Okay, so I'll share it with you. It was a good one. I'm also, I don't know. You're right. I'm not nervous. Although I am kind of out of breath. I've been like running all day, and then I like came home and I had to do a live in another group, and I had to do it in my garage because I didn't have time to like come up and do it on time. So I've just been going. I feel like I could just like relax now. So thank you, Brett. Okay. So Sound Guy says, oh my gosh, not taking things personally has changed my life for the better. Whenever I start the whole, what did I do? What could I have done? Nonsense. I use it as a cue to remind myself not to take things personally. My anxiety dissipates and I can think rationally and objectively about what happened, or think about what the other person is feeling that would have caused them to do that. Ooh, so good. So good. So good. I also love, Sound Guy, that you're always like, this is 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. Okay. So awesome. Rohan says, my healthcare professional is definitely Leanne. Hello. Just kidding. I love you so much, woman. Oh my gosh. Okay. And then Britt says, I've always had horrible long-term memory. Don't know why. Very few childhood memories. I mean, again, I'm not a professional. I don't know, but apparently that is part of, if you've had trauma, that your memory just like locks that away. So you don't have those. Really interesting. I don't know. I don't have the answer for it, but, it is interesting. Rose says, trauma responses are different for each of us. Too often I see people taking things personally. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And trauma responses, it's so interesting to me because the more that I'm learning about them, I thought it was kind of textbook. And I was like, man, why do people have to be in therapy for so long? Why can't you just like tap into this, fix it, and just get going with your day, right? Because of my whole all or nothing, I was like, there should be a blueprint that here's the trauma you had, here's how we're going to address it, and here's how we're going to fix it. And now the more that I'm learning about it, our trauma responses are all different. Also, traumatic things can happen to people, and people cannot have a trauma. It can not turn into a trauma for people. So like, you could have like you and your sister could be in a car and have the exact same car accident. And depending on a lot of different circumstances in that situation, your sister may have a traumatic experience and not want to be in the back of a car ever again. And you might not even affect you. And you'll just be like, oh yeah, I remember when we had that car accident when we were kids, and like be totally fine. So it's fascinating what happens with our brains and our bodies. Mel is in the house. Hello. So she says trauma and grief, totally different for everyone. Absolutely. She says, by the way, hello, beautiful. Well, hello, gorgeous. Okay, so Ro also says, just want to share. There is an instructor at the college who is direct in his teaching, but they can sometimes make others feel like they're nothing. Ooh, I do see a lot of people in the class want because that's one of two. So I should have waited. Sorry, Ro. I should have waited until you were done. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that down. I'm going to wait until you've got the second one up there. And I'm going to tell you my parallel parking story because I just love it. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Okay. I'll get to that in a moment. So Rose says, just want to share. There's an instructor at the college who's direct in his teaching, but they can sometimes make others feel like they're nothing. I do see a lot of people in the class that want to argue and fight. Most of them, as I said before, are still young, aka they're kids. Someday, when they get older and more mature, they'll realize, hopefully, that it's not conducive to learning or keeping a connection with others. Right. Yes. So hopefully they will learn. Yes. But that arguing and that fighting, that is the way that we deal. Some people deal with stress and deal with being triggered with that, and that's that fight response. And so whenever I see it now, like when I see people retreating, when I see them being like really shy, like maybe not just shy like in general, but like you can tell when somebody's like kind of contracting. When I see that, I'm like, oh man, I'm so curious as to what they've been through, you know? And you can have empathy when you look at somebody like that. And when somebody is lashing out at you and just yelling at you, and it's just not a rational response. Also, you can be like, oh man, what happened to you? You know? So really interesting. Pop says, ooh, the suspense. Yes, Ro, she got through it. And that was really interesting. So it's just true. And I'm really happy that your instructor can still just be who he is and be direct, as long as he's being kind, you know, like making other people feel like they're nothing. If it's saying things that are legit telling them that they're nothing, then that's not cool. But if it's just like, you know, some people are taking it that way because they're taking it personally, it's totally different. And like, it's these 4 agreements. I know that it's a really simple concept, but it really can change your life. Like, look at Sound Guy. He was like, oh my God, it literally changes our life. And so if we can focus on just those 4, if you can make that your New Year's resolution, that you just get the book, you read the book, and then you read the 4 agreements morning and night and just soak those in, it'll change everything for you. 2025 will be one of the best years of your life. I can guarantee it, if you focus on the 4 agreements. So Ro also says, personally, some of those younger peeps are annoyed that I don't get bothered by it. Right. I have 2 choices when I attend college, especially as an older person. I don't necessarily have to love them, but just be happy to learn something and don't go to learn by yourself. Right. Sorry for the multiple messages. No, that's totally fine. I'm glad that you're doing that actually, because then it's, you know, you can, I can read it and then keep going. So totally fine. And the next time that I see a 1 of 2, I will just wait to read it. So that was totally my fault. So, yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, you don't have to love everybody. Like, I'm going to take that back. You do. Our life will be so much, we don't have to do anything, but our life is so much easier if we just love everybody. Like, just look at everybody with love. It makes our lives easier. Okay. But you don't have to like everybody. Those are 2 distinctions. Those are 2 very different things. And people look at it like, so this is another tangent, but people look at it like, well, I'm going to like you. I can't say I love you yet because I don't know if I love you yet. And the way that I look at life is I will love everybody that comes into my orbit. I love everybody. I may not like you. You may prove that I am not going to want to like hang out with you. You may prove that I'm just like not really a big fan of how you show up, but I love you. Would I ever want to see you hurt? No. Would I ever want to see you in pain? No. Would I ever want to put pain on you? No, that's not in me because I love everybody around me. So I think that's another thing that we should be shifting is, those things like, oh my gosh, like I want to tell them that I love them, but I can't because I don't want to be the first one to say it. Be the first one to say it. 2025, say I love you to everybody. Like it is so wonderful to be able to love everybody and not care if they say it back. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So anyway, so yeah, so that is a good one though, Ro. Like just being happy to learn something, like going to school, just be happy, and then like not necessarily liking everybody around you. Yeah, that's a big thing. So Fritz's dad was a pro at making you feel small. I really hate it when I do that to Mel. Sorry, babe. Don't mean to. There we go. So maybe that ties in, Britt. Maybe that ties into why you don't remember a lot of your childhood memories, because maybe there was a lot of, if you guys look, if you guys are on Instagram, I'm not exactly sure of her handle. I think if you put in there holistic psychologist, you'd be able to see her. It might be like the holistic psychologist. Anyway, she is amazing at like distilling what our childhood trauma did to us, and like how the most insignificant things that like an adult can say to a parent, or the way that an adult can show up, and the way that the child just takes it in. You wouldn't think that like, oh yeah, your dad made people feel small and you didn't like it, but like you probably just got over it, or you were a kid so you didn't even notice it, or whatever. It can really have like a lasting thing on you, and it can be trauma, even if it wasn't something that would be traumatic for an adult. As a child, it could be. So maybe that's why you don't have a lot of childhood memories, because at an early age those were tied to not feeling good enough. Again, not a professional, but there could definitely be a tie there. And Britt says, love is the innocent until proven guilty of emotions. I love it. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, and then look at this. Mel says, I know you do. Love you, babe. You've gotten so much better. Ooh, that's awesome. So just so you guys know, I'm sure you can tell, Pops and Mel are married, and I love having them on the show. It is so cool. So Mel's been watching us from, I think, day one. And there was some show that we were doing. I can't remember exactly what the title was, but we were doing one episode and she was like, hey, do you mind if I bring my husband? I think he would really like this episode. And I was like, oh my gosh, bring everybody. So he came to this one episode, and then Britt's been here every single episode. So it's awesome. And I love that they come in separately, like they're both in the same house, but they come on their own account so they can both like comment at the same time. So it's pretty cool. Okay. I am going to share. Now the story is probably going to be super lame, because now I've said that I was going to share the story a million times. So now it's just not going to live up to this anticipation, but I will share it with you anyway. So I go downtown and Valendre Dorlian. Who's this? Hi, Lee. Long time. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. It looks familiar. Not 100% sure. I am so sorry, but hello. And Britt says, we are rock stars. You guys are so awesome. Truly. Okay. So here we go. Here's the story. I was downtown and I had to get parking, and all I had to do was go into the Starbucks. But downtown, it's awful parking, and you will get ticketed. Like they are always out there. The police station is like right down the street. So they are always giving tickets, right? And so instead of just like, parking down there and just putting my hazards on and running in and running out, and there's no parking lot, it's just street parking. I had to go around the block and get a parking spot. So so I went and got this parking spot. And in front of the parking spot was a commercial vehicles only loading zone. Okay. So I was on a street that there's only one, like it was two lanes of traffic, one way, one the other way. And so I just hurried up and like got into the spot, but like went up into the commercial loading zone so then I could back up, right? But I wanted to get out of the traffic because we were at a light. I wanted to make sure that they could still move smoothly. And then I could just go in and then just back up. So I start backing up into the regular spot, not the commercial loading zone. And this guy in this sports car hurries up and tries to get in that spot. I had my reverse on. So my lights were on. I was halfway into the spot and he starts honking his horn. He's so irate. He's angry. And I just keep backing up because I'm like, well, it's my spot. Like, I don't have to be upset that he's upset, but he's got to get out of my spot because it's my spot. And normally old me would have been like, oh my goodness, I'm making him upset. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go find another spot. But I was like, he must be having a bad day. So he gets out. He can't get in anyway because I don't know why he thought he was going to be able to get in, because now he's on like this weird angle. He doesn't have the space because I'm halfway in the spot, right? Like, anyway, so he backs up and I thought was going to go forward and leave and go find another spot. He stops right next to me and he rolls down his window and he starts yelling and swearing and he's pissed. My windows were tinted, so he didn't see who it was. And it's so funny. So I put my window down and I just smile and I waved. And he's like, oh shit. Okay. So now he goes into the commercial loading zone, parks there, and I'm getting my purse and like ready to get out of the thing. And he bolts it out of the car and like, it was like his pants were on fire. He runs out of the thing, out of his car, and goes to the light so he can like cross the street and get out of zone so I don't have to talk to him, because he's a big man behind his steering wheel. But once he got into the real world, so I get out and I go and I talk to the passenger guy, because he's just taking his time because he has no shame. He didn't do anything. And so I said, hey, I was like, obviously I can't park in the commercial because I don't have a commercial vehicle. And I was just like, whatever. And he goes, I wasn't the driver. It was that guy. And the guy looks kind of back at me and then just looks forward, and he's like so anxious. So I went up to him and I was like, hey, and he goes, I'm so sorry. I've been having a really bad day. Look, and he started unloading on me, saying how bad of a day he's had and what's been going on and whatever. And I was like, hey, no worries, man. Like, I could tell something was going on. No big deal. And then I was like, looks like you could use a hug. He's like, I could. So I gave him a hug and then I went across the street. I got my drink. I came out. They were still standing there and they're like, have a good day. Again, I'm really sorry. So there were so many things in that I could have taken offense, that I could have, gotten upset because he's getting upset with me, and I could have lashed out at him and I could have yelled at him and I was in the right. So then I could have, although now sound guy is saying no turn signal. No. So I was in the spot, backing into the spot. Like, I was not paralleled anymore. So I think my blinker was actually probably off by that time because I had already turned into the spot. And that guy was just like a doofus and just went into the spot. So anyway, I was in the right. But I didn't have to take anything. I didn't take offense to it. I didn't even really put much stock into what he was going through. I was just like, he's obviously had a day, like, too bad. Yes, I could have probably given him the spot. That might have been an even kinder way of doing it, but I really didn't want to go around for another 2 blocks trying to find a spot. So it is what it is. Sound guys say, that's great. Don't take things personally. Antidote. Thank you for sharing. Yes, it was a long way coming, but oh my gosh, Val. Yes. Okay. So she said, we met at Frank's Wisdom and then again at the University of Windsor Women event through the Epicenter. I do remember you now. Yes, Val. Okay. Yes. Your name tag said Val, right? Yes, I do remember you. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Hope that helps you remember. If not, that's okay. No, I absolutely do. I absolutely remember you, and I'm so happy that you're here. That's so awesome. Okay, so let's see what else is going on here. Patrick is here. Hey, Patrick. Hope you backed up as slowly as humanly possible. No, I mean, I did a little bit because his car was in my way. So, like, I couldn't like back up. But no, but it was really an interesting experiment for me because I was so calm. Like, I wasn't rattled at all. Even when he started yelling at me, like, I there was nothing. It was just so cool. I was just like, it was like an out of body experience where I'm like, wow, poor guy. Cause it's so irrational for that instance. Like, it's so irrational. And that's where, like, we were just talking about where you guys were saying, like, trauma responses, people have it very different. That's what that is, you know? Really, really interesting. And Patrick says, you should have said, you think you're having a bad day. Some jerk tried to take my parking spot. That would have been funny. I don't think quickly on my feet. I really don't, but that would have been hysterical. Yes. And Britt says, free hugs. Yes, absolutely. It was just so good. And he was so like, it just dialed him back in, you know? And so that's the other thing. So I could have like yelled at him. He could have yelled at me. We could have just backed and forth. And that would have been his energy going into the rest of the day. Was that his energy for the rest of the day? Who knows? I can't change you. But there was at least in that moment, he was calm. In that moment, he got a hug. In that moment, he realized that he was being a like royal jerk and felt bad about it. But a lot of the time we just like match people's energy and then they don't have a chance to see that they were a jerk, you know? And that's not what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to like prove a point and like, hey, I'm calmer than you. I just knew that escalating it wouldn't help anything, you know? So anyway, so that was my story. I was it's really cool. And I was also really proud of myself. And then I did kind of feel bad because I just went in to get a mobile order on my Starbucks. So I was literally only in that spot for like maybe 3 minutes. That's it. So I made that big of a deal. Probably could have went in the loading zone and it would have been okay. But anyway, it is what it is. It made for a good story. So, okay, so let's get back to the 4 agreements and how they are going to affect our relationships. So, here is next week. So, next week we are going to have a show on Wednesday. It's the night before Thanksgiving. We're Canadian, so we don't celebrate, but my family is American and Mike is American. And so we will be over in the States on Thursday celebrating. But Wednesday night, we're still going to have a show. Okay. And so next week, we're going to be talking about the 4 agreements and how they tie into youthfulness. So how we can use youthfulness with the 4 agreements. Okay. So that should be a really interesting conversation. But what I want you to start thinking about right now is I want you to start thinking about Thanksgiving dinner. Okay. And if you're Canadian listening to this, then think about Christmas dinner. Think about your next time that you're going to be together with your family. Okay. And I want you to be thinking about these 4 agreements and how you're going to use them when you're at the dinner table, how you're going to be with the relationships that you have during this season. So the next 6 weeks are going to be heightened. The next 6 weeks are going to be lonely. The next 6 weeks are going to be busy. They're going to be all the things. And what's interesting is some people are like, well, I don't even understand how you could be lonely because you have everybody around you. Loneliness has nothing to do with the amount of people that are around you. Nothing. You can be super popular. You can be an actress with everybody beating down your door and you can still be lonely. So it has been proven that December is one of the loneliest months. December and January, those are the 2 hardest months for people. December is a very difficult month. And so I want you to also be considering that if it's difficult for you, even if it's not difficult for you, it's difficult for other people and people still have to show up and live their life. They still have to go to work. They still have to be your barista. They still have to, be your clerk at the shopping store, at the grocery store. They still have to be a part of life and they might be really struggling. So looking at the things that they're doing and the way that they're showing up, let's look at it and not take it personally. Let's be impeccable with our word. Let's speak with loving kindness to everybody that we're coming across. And I want you to be thinking about all 4 all 4 of the agreements and how you're going to be showing up at Christmas dinner, at Thanksgiving dinner, when you're in the hustle bustle of the shopping, of if you do go out for Black Friday, good luck, and figure that out. Um, but I want you to be intentional about it. So that's why I truly want you to be thinking about it right now. I don't want you just to be thrown into the dinner and then like, oh my gosh, okay. Yeah, they are driving me insane. What were we talking about? What are the 4 agreements? Go into that dinner with the 4 agreements as your tools to be able to help you ask better questions, be a little bit more curious, get a little bit more clarity, and come with loving kindness to your neighbor. So we are going to be like starting to wrap up, but you know how that usually goes. That means that we probably have like 5 or 10 more minutes. But I want to hear kind of your last thoughts. So Mel says, amen. So true. And yes, they are difficult. Yes, the months are difficult. And Britt says, highest suicide rates are during the holidays. Yes. I have an idea of what I want the theme to be for next month. I'll share it with you guys. Actually, that's what we can talk about right now, unless you have more that you want to kind of touch on about the 4 agreements and partnerships. But let's talk about the theme for next month. So that's what we kind of do. Sometimes I'll just come up with a theme and I'm like, this is what I need to talk about. This is what I'm talking about in therapy or with my coach or whatever. And so but this one I want to talk to you guys about. I think I know what I want. Oh, that's right. Britt says, I missed the get to know you questions at the end. Okay, let's bring that back. Yes. Okay. We will absolutely do that. And I actually have them right here. So we will do that. Let's talk really quickly about the thought for next month. This is what my thought is. I don't know what we'll call it, but I want bullying to be the theme. So in our city, we just lost another young person. I think she was 15 or 16 years old. She took her life. And it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And it's always awful when we lose somebody, but she was somebody that it is a shock to her mother. Her and her mother were best friends. It was a shock to her mom. It was a shock to the entire city. The city is, because she was such a light and she was involved in so much and helping so many people. And you had no idea what was going on. But she was bullied. And what I want to do, what my thought is to have some people that are this is what I want to do so I want to do our regular Wednesday night show. And then throughout the month of December, I also want to have some shows that are kind of interview style, maybe shorter, maybe not an hour, but interview style with people that have been bullied in the past, maybe thought of suicide, have dealt with suicide, and can give some actual tangible things that maybe it's very different, for you, how you got out of it or how you're getting out of it or how you deal with it. And also like that people can see that this isn't the end. This isn't like, how am I ever going to, especially high school kids, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting bullied. I'm always going to be bullied. Like that feeling of like, this will never end. And so I will just end it. I want people to see that like, they understand that a lot of people were bullied, but you don't see that story, right? Like that other people are bullied, but like, oh, they get through it, but I just can't because this is just so much. I want to share those stories. I want people to share those stories. I want them to share how they got out of it. So then other kids that are thinking about it, other 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds that are thinking about it, because Britt is absolutely right. The holidays are one of the highest months of suicide. And this year, I don't know what the stats are. I haven't looked it up. Patrick, you might even know, but I don't know what the stats are, but I have seen it too much this year. I've lost people this year and to suicide, that people just it's just too much and people are just too mean. And so I want the theme to be around either around bullying and how to get around it, how to use those 4 pillars, but also like how you did it. How did you get past it? Because you guys, the bullying is so different from when we were in school. When we were in school, I mean, I was bullied, but I was bullied at school. And then when you came home, you didn't have to worry about it until Monday. And so Sunday night was always hard because you didn't want to go to bed, because you didn't want to have to wake up, because you didn't want to have to go to school, because you didn't want to have to deal with it again. But at least Saturday and Sunday, that was it. Like you could just be with your family, or you could be with your friends that didn't bully you. And that was it. You could remember the mean things that happened throughout the week, but that was it. And now they have them right here, right? They're on the phone all the time, hearing and getting DMs and getting comments, it's just never ending. So I really want to kind of share that. So that's what my thought is. Okay, so let's look. And then we'll get to some of these for the last maybe 5-10 minutes. So Sound Guy says, can you compare behavior and character with regard to love, like, and respect? Yeah. Okay. So from my experience, this is how I kind of interpret it. So for me, and so people, when they say, like, oh, I can't say I love you because I haven't heard it. Like they didn't say it first and I don't want to say it. There's that attachment part of it, right? That it's like they think that it's just a romantic approval, that it's like, if you say you love me, then that means that, we're together and it's just like a romantic partnership and you accept me and now we're together, right? But love, I think, is all encompassing. I think that respect is similar, but love is because you are you, I love you. And it's just I accept you for who you are. And I think that is why a lot of people have a hard time with love, because we don't accept ourselves. So we have a very hard time accepting other people the way that they are. I think love is just an acceptance of, I accept you for being who you are, and I want you to live your life the way that you want to live your life, and the way that you do it is the way that you do it. That's what I think love is. And like I can't explain it. And probably if I went and Googled it and like learned about like what is love and what all the things are, when I was going through my happiness coaching, there was all kinds of stats and things about love. But for me, it's exactly what Britt said about it is the innocent until proven guilty. Like you just can love people just for being human. And also because that we're all made of the same. We're all made of the same energy. We're all made of the same cells. We're all the same person. We're all the same being, but we've all dealt with different experiences. We've been dealt different cards, all of these kinds of things. Oh, I got to get going. I forgot. Mike has a podcast at 8:30. Okay, so I got to wrap up. I totally forgot about that. Anyway, so that's what I think love is. And then like is like, do you like what they're doing and how they're showing up? So you might not align with their values. And so that's, yeah, honey, I'm going to be done in 2 minutes. So you don't have to align with their values. And then if you don't, then you don't have to like them. And then respect, I think we should just all respect each other because nobody knows what other people have been going through, right? So we're going to wrap up. Britt, we're going to do these at the beginning of the next show. And I'm just going to finish up with this. So Patrick says, the important thing to remember is that there's only 344 days until Halloween. That was not worth reading. And he also says, Canada, approximately 12 people die by suicide each day, approximately 4,500 deaths by suicide per year. Suicide rates are approximately 3 times higher among men compared to women, and suicide is the second leading cause of death among young youth and young adults, 15 to 34 years. So that's what we're going to be talking about next month. But next week, we're going to be talking about youthfulness and the 4 agreements. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. I hope I can see you guys here Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Bye, guys. Love you.